Remember when there were simpler times and there used to be only one version of a flagship phone? A one size fits all that usually worked pretty well. Remember how gradually we moved from one flagship smartphone to two, one regular variant and the other one a plus or a max variant. Remember how Samsung back in March one-upped even this trend and bought three variants of their 2020 flagship: the Galaxy S20, the S20 Plus, and the S20 Ultra. The S20 Ultra is supposed to be Samsung's ridiculous all-out phone. It doesn't only pack the best of everything like its smaller siblings, it boasts of being excessive. I'm Rohan from TechieTechTech and I've been using the S20 Ultra for the better part of 4 months now. So let's find out how Samsung's priciest S series smartphone yet fares 4 months later. I always begin my reviews with the in-hand feel and hardware of the device. As with the excessive theme of this phone, the S20 Ultra is big, and that's big with all capital letters. It packs a large, almost tablet-like 6.9-inch display. It has a massive camera module, bigger than any I have ever seen, and it is heavy at 222 grams. Of course, even with larger hands like mine, the S20 Ultra is definitely not a one-hand use device. Surprisingly, even after the large camera module on the top, the weight feels very well distributed and it feels very dense in hand, like a very well thought out object of opulence. The volume and power buttons are both on the right side and clicky enough. Of course, with a module this large, the phone tends to wobble more than any other smartphone I've used when you keep it on a flat table or any flat surface, even with the case on. Now, there have been multiple complaints about the camera glass on the S20 Ultra breaking on its own or with very slight damage, and that honestly doesn't seem very far-fetched given how large and thin this glass is. Thankfully, I haven't faced any issues with mine, and neither has a friend who has been using his phone for a solid 3 months. But overall, Samsung has nailed the hardware and construction part of this phone, and if there's only one thing that I could nitpick, it would be the stainless steel frame that the iPhones use. I would have loved to see it on this phone. It isn't even far-fetched given how this phone trumps the iPhone 11 Pro Max when it comes to the pricing. Let's flip over to the display. Samsung colors and displays are quite popularly the best, so without obsessing a lot over it, I think this is the best display in the industry which offers an excellent viewing experience. There is the problem of you getting either 120Hz refresh rate with lesser Full HD resolution or 60Hz refresh rate with the max Quad HD resolution. Now personally, even if given the option, I would have still chosen the 120Hz and the Full HD option for better battery life, but regardless of that, it's a shame that there are still compromises to be made at such an exuberant price point. And the argument that it might lead to throttling or terrible battery life is another thing that is just unacceptable to me. This is supposed to be a very expensive, top-of-the-line product, and issues like throttling or battery life should have been taken care of before shipping the finished version. The problems of hardware design in the final version should have been Samsung's and not the consumers who are paying way more than the average Joe for their phones. And now that we are talking about throttling, let's talk some more about it because throttling is something that I've seen quite a lot in my 4 months of usage. Before a series of software updates, there was a terrible problem with throttling to the point that even scrolling through the app drawer and browsing led to warm to high temperatures and slowdowns. That has been largely fixed and not much of a problem with the latest software updates. The phone does tend to get warm randomly sometimes, but the temperature does not climb to worrying levels or levels that would affect the performance seriously. Now, don't get me wrong, the general day-to-day performance of the S20 Ultra is pretty much flawless, as good as it can possibly get. There is excellent memory management with the ample 12 GB of RAM, apps open quickly, and the UI just flies itself very well at 120Hz. But then you switch over to gaming and the Exynos processor in this phone shows its ugly side. Long story short, this phone is not made for gaming and should not be considered by gamers. Long-time followers of this channel know that I love PUBG, and catch this. This $1400 or 1 lakh rupee S20 Ultra does not even support HDR plus extreme graphics settings. That is insane. If the most expensive Android phone does not support the highest available graphics setting, then where am I even supposed to go if I am an Android gamer? And it gets even worse. Turns out that even flagships from last year support higher graphic settings than the Ultra and play it much more smoother. And it even gets crazier. Even my Exynos S10 Plus from last year supports higher graphic configurations for PUBG compared to this phone, which is half as old and twice as expensive. After 30 minutes of gaming with voice chat on, the S20 Ultra throttles and drops frames like no one's business. It is a shame that Samsung included the Exynos processor in this phone, since I've heard that the Snapdragon A65 in the American, Korean, Canadian and Japanese versions is free from all this nonsense. And don't tell me to wait for them to optimize it. It is a very expensive phone, I paid upfront for it, and I shouldn't have to wait months after buying it to get optimal performance. Anyway, to cut my rant short, if your usage includes anything performance intensive, forget about this phone. Just believe it doesn't exist and move on. Now that I have calmed down, let's move on to the camera. Samsung's Galaxy flagships are famous for their amazing color science and HDR processing, and the S20 Ultra is no different. But I have to say that it did leave some stones unturned on their way to the $1400 price tag. Now, this year's flagship sports a quad camera setup with time of flight depth sensor. Here's a quick look at the detailed specs on your screen. Let's talk about the photography first and then we'll move on to the videography. The pictures from the primary lens are sharp, exposed properly and have accurate colors with true to life contrast. The optics for all the primary three lenses have significantly improved from the earlier generation in terms of chromatic aberration, sharpness and overall performance. The 108 megapixel shots are remarkable but only in the ideal lighting conditions. The pictures are detailed and are fairly good even on the edges, but the file sizes are too big and it's better to shift to the default settings. The indoor performance has improved as compared to last year's flagships because of the new sensor and processor. Thanks to the larger sensor size on the S20 Ultra, the super wide lens takes way better pictures than the last generation of Galaxy flagships. The 4x telephoto lens is sharp and well exposed, but sometimes the pictures do tend to have artifacts, and for some reason the telephoto lens option is set to 5x instead of 4x. The S20 Ultra has 4x optical zoom, but the camera app always zooms in on 5x. The 100x space zoom is a nice toy, a nice gimmick to have, but not at all practical. The pictures taken are not sharp and have a lot of noise. they tend to show a lot of the oil painting effect. Here's a picture of a potato moon for no reason that felt really cool when clicking it, but over time it just felt like an average picture. One annoying thing while shifting between the three primary lenses is that the color temperatures tend to change while shifting. The S20 Ultra takes breathtaking portraits with both the wide and zoom lenses. The subject separation and blur effects are one of the best we've tested so far, and that includes the excellent portraits clicked from the iPhone 11 Pro Max. Plus, the HDR mode adds icing to the cake if you're taking portraits outdoors. The front camera takes fairly good 40 megapixel stills in both regular and wide field of view. The selfies are good in daylight with highlights and accurate skin tones. In the night mode, the noise performance and the color accuracy are really good, and there are less artifacts as compared to previous generations. Other findings include an overall snappiness in the camera app, improved camera UI, and the lack of HDR in panorama mode. My favorite feature is definitely the single take mode, which takes a video of 3 to 10 seconds and gives you different formats of media like pictures, videos, and even GIFs. So you can easily shoot without missing out on the moment. It's like live photos on steroids. Moving on to the videography, the overall video performance is good and there are some excellent video features, but the small limitations do tend to make the shooting experience somewhat annoying. Videos shot outside are well exposed with accurate color and contrast on all three lenses. Things do go south while shooting indoors, but the improved large sensors control the noise fairly well. Here's the annoying part. Not all lenses and features are supported in all resolutions and frame rates. That's really disappointing for a $1,400 smartphone which is designed to provide a revolutionary camera experience. In fact, the S20 Ultra's advertising mostly revolves around an out-of-the-world camera module. The front camera performance in terms of exposure, colors, and skin tones is good in different resolutions, but captures flares and the hue shifts when you are in front of a light source. The footage is not jittery and the quality is more than adequate if you're looking to vlog with it. Talking about the much hyped 8K video mode, it shoots in 24 FPS and is cropped. Moreover, there's a lot of jitteriness present which makes handheld videos without a tripod or a gimbal of some sort almost unusable. In conclusion, it feels nice to carry an 8K video camera in your pocket, but honestly it's overhyped and more for bragging rights than for any practical usage. In order to take full advantage of the 8K resolution, you'll need a mobile gimbal to stabilize all the jitteriness and an 8K display to feel the high resolution. The manual video mode feels very limited and Samsung hasn't allowed any third-party app like Filmic Pro to take full advantage of the new camera setup. The S20 Ultra can shoot videos in HDR10 and supports HEVC format, which is great when you're low on storage. The low light footage looks better than our Samsung Note 10 Plus and the colors pop out evenly. There is noticeable over smoothing when shooting in 60 fps in 4K and Full HD. In short, the S20 Ultra has a really nice camera both in terms of hardware and software. Samsung has become one of the leaders in Android market when it comes to mobile photography. But buying the S20 Ultra just for the 100x zoom and the 8K video recording isn't the wisest choice. We recently reviewed the Note 10 Plus and the difference between the Note 10 Plus and the S20 Ultra's overall camera experience isn't exponential. So make sure to check that out as well before making your buying decision. Moving on to the other bits and pieces from my experience, the 120Hz displays are amazing. I know there are a lot of conflicting views about it, but for me personally, it is a noticeable step up even from the 90Hz displays we saw last year. A big thumbs up for the display. Now there is no headphone jack of course and no included dongle, but at least there are Type-C AKG earphones in the box which are actually fairly nice and good quality. As I conclude, I want to talk more about the general concept of this phone. What according to me was Samsung's thinking when they came out with the S20 Ultra. With budget phones becoming more and more capable, a $399 iPhone SE and value for money OnePlus phones, why does the Galaxy S20 Ultra even exist at $1400? Even the significantly cheaper S20 Plus is reason enough not to go for the Ultra. Heck, it's reason enough for Samsung to never have thought of making an S20 Ultra. Then why is it here and who is it for? Now in my opinion, while the S20 Ultra fails to stand out in function, it shines above the competition in form. The large footprint, the impossible to miss camera module, and the larger than life big display. They are all style statements from Samsung. They are there to make the phone stand out from the sea of black rectangular slabs and exhibit luxury, opulence, both of the device and the one who wields it. Thank you so much for watching this review guys. I hope you liked it. Do leave any queries, debates and comments down below. Please like, share and subscribe. This has been Rohan from TechieTechTech and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.